us by your love. And in all things, we know that we are more than conquerors. You keep us by your love. In all things, we know that we are more than conquerors. You keep us by your love. In all things, we know that we are more than conquerors. You keep us by your love. You keep us by your love. How wide, no matter where I am, healing is in your hands. How deep is your love? How strong is your love? Now by your grace I stand. Healing is in your hands. There's healing in your hands, oh God. Oh, there's healing in your presence, Lord. Yes. In all things, we know that we are more than conquerors. You keep us by your love. You keep us by your love. Your love.
Well, we are in module number 4, and welcome again. My name is Chris J. Gregus, but you already know that if you've been going through these modules. Some of you go through them individually, so I wanted to introduce myself again. And we're talking about mastering the circle of life between the dashes, finding meaning between the dashes, right? And so it's very important that we understand this whole idea of the steps of dealing with our past. Now, let me ask you a few questions as we begin today, this module. And I think it's very important that we ask these questions because we're beginning to really hit the surface and go into the flesh, as it were, putting flesh on the bones for this whole idea of resolving our past. Now, here's the questions. When you hear the phrase healing from your past, what comes to mind? I'm going to let you think about that for a moment. What comes to mind? Healing from your past? Fear, anxiety, joy, hope. There's all kinds of things that could come to your mind. Second question, do you think you could find healing from your painful past if you need it? Do you think you could find it? You think it's possible? Some of you don't think it's possible, and you've been looking for things. Maybe, we talk about the song "Looking for Love in All the Wrong Places." We've been looking for healing in all the wrong places. Do you think you can find healing from your painful past if you need it? How much would you do and give to find this healing? Right? You'd invest, like you've invested in this webinar. You've invested other things. You've maybe gone to counselors, psychologists, psychiatrists, therapists, spent hundreds of dollars, maybe thousands of dollars. How much would you do? And how much would you give to find this healing? And then the last question is, do you need this healing or do you think you're just fine? Now, my guess is you probably know there's something not right with your past and you haven't resolved it. That's why you've invested in this course. But sometimes we get to thinking, well, I'm not as bad as the next person, but it doesn't matter whether we're as bad as the next person. The truth of the matter is we're dealing with it. And so we need to find something to find healing in. And I believe this seminar is part of that. I don't know if you recognize this guy. This guy's name is Edgar Allan Poe. I think you've heard of him. And here's what he said: I have absolutely no pleasure in the stimulants in which I sometimes so madly indulge. It has not been in the pursuit of pleasure that I have periled life and reputation and reason. It has been the desperate attempt to escape from torturing memories, from a sense of insupportable loneliness and a dread of some strange impending doom. Now that's pretty dark. But I would dare to say that some of you, maybe many of you, have felt like that at one point in your life. Maybe you feel like that now. And so you've invested in other programs and other things, and you've invested in this to say, you know what? I'm sick and tired of being sick and tired. I want to get out of this squirrel cage of my past and the painful memories of it and the things that have been done to me and the things that I've done now out of hurt, right, that have made it worse. And so if that's your understanding of things, then you know what? You've come to the right place. I like Philippians chapter 3, verse 13. Maybe you're aware of that passage, maybe you're not, but let me read it to you. And it's in 4 different translations. Brothers, I do not consider that I have made it my own, but one thing I do, forgetting what lies behind and straining forward to what lies ahead. Brethren, I do not regard myself as having laid hold of it yet, but one thing I do, forgetting what lies behind and reaching forward to what lies ahead. Now, this is the Apostle Paul speaking in Philippians chapter 3 in the New Testament. Brothers and sisters, I do not consider myself yet to have taken hold of it, but one thing I do, forgetting what is behind and straining towards what is ahead. Brethren, I do not count myself to have apprehended, but one thing I do, forgetting those things which are behind and reaching forward to those things which are ahead. Forgetting the past and stretching confidently towards the future is the Apostle Paul's message. It's the Holy Spirit's message, okay? God never meant for us to live in the past. He meant for us to learn from the past. And there is a vast difference, and that's what we've been highlighting, at least in the first 3 modules, and in this module, and in the next module. And we're going to see how the present and future plays into this as well as we march through the 12 modules that we have in this course. Now, this is an all too common prayer. Dear God, where are you? How can you watch and not help me? I hurt so bad, and you don't even care. If you'd cared, you'd make it stop or let me die. I love you, but you seem so far away. I can't hear you or feel you or see you, but I'm supposed to believe you're here, Lord. I feel them and hear them. They are here. I know you're real, God, but they are more real to me right now. Please make someone believe me, Lord. Why won't you make it stop? Please, Lord, please. If you love me, you'll let me die. A lost sheep, which is in fact real bondage. Have you felt that way before? Do you feel that way now? And how about all the others that feel that way, that you're going to be able to help when you find healing for yourself? Now, 4 years later, this person wrote this: my dear lost sheep, you asked me where I am, and this is speaking from God's perspective. My child, I am with you, always will be. You are weak, but in me you are strong. I love you so much that I can't let you die. I am so close that I feel everything you feel. I know what you're going through, for I am going through it with you. But I have set you free, and you must stand firm. You do not need to die physically for my enemies to be gone, but be crucified with me, and I will live in you, and you shall live with me. I will direct you in paths of righteousness, my child. I love you, and I will never forsake you, for you are truly mine. Love, God. freedom found. Now, this is a real story of a person who felt the way they felt in the last slide, and now 4 years later, this is what they're writing. Now, you may say, well, I'm far from there, Chris. Well, maybe you are. But I believe as we walk through this, you're going to be able to get closer to that 4 years later. It might not take you 4 years. It might take you 1. It might take you 5. But you'll be able to truly talk about the freedom that you have received and the freedom that you're giving away. So there's hope. Hang in there. You're on the verge of a miracle. And I want to say that with all of my heart. I really, truly believe that. And I have helped people, hundreds of people, over the years, and I'm sure they've helped other people over the years, these last 30 years or so, to be able to find freedom from a past that has been so painful that thinking about death and actually trying it has been pretty common. Let me share some principles of healing from your painful past. Some things that you need to think about. First of all, memories of our past are not what slowly kills us. It is the pain of the memories that do that. Well, I use an example, my Uncle Walter. I was speaking to him. Uncle Walter was a street person. He'd become an alcoholic and he lived on the street. My parents took him in. What we didn't know at the time was about the last 6 months of his life. And he was dying, and Uncle Walter didn't know it. We didn't know it, but we found that out. He had pancreatic cancer from all the drinking. Make a long story short, I was with him. My wife and I were with him one evening, and we were trying to explain the gospel of Jesus Christ to him. And I was talking to him, and I was getting nowhere. And to make a long story short, he began to question God and question the whole thing and the pain that he had gone through. And he said, Chris, the only time that I'm out of pain from the memories is when I drink, and when I drink heavily. And I heard myself pray this prayer, Lord, give me wisdom to know what to say to my uncle. And the next thing I know coming out of my mouth was, Uncle Walter, it's not the memories that kill us, it's the pain of the memories. And he stood up and he basically said, what did you just say? And I repeated it. And I don't think I've ever said that. I ever had said it up to that point. And I began to understand. He understood. And that night he came to know Christ, and he died 2 to 4 weeks later. I don't remember the exact time. But he realized the pain of the memories was killing him. And God was able to bring pain. See, it's not the memories. All of us have memories that are not painful. They're bad memories, but they're not painful. But most of us have painful memories that we've not dealt with. We've not allowed God to deal with. And so we want to talk about the pain, not only in the rest of this module, but in our next one as well. And then we need to live in the truth of the present and don't make the past your present. We can only influence today fully, okay? We can't make the past our present. We can learn from the past, but we can't live in it. And when we live in it, that's when we're in bondage. And there's so many people that are walking in bondage this day because they're living in their past. And then forgiving yourself, others, and God is the greatest ticket to personal and spiritual freedom in your life. You need to forgive. And we're going to talk more about that in the modules to come. But the important thing about resolving our past is that little idea that becomes a giant idea that means we need to forgive those who have hurt us. So talk about some principles, some further principles. Number one, we need to understand how trauma affects the brain. The effects of the brain is explained. See, when we go through trauma, our brain protects us. And so it hides the feelings that we have, and it hides the pain, okay? And trauma, when it happens to us, we begin to hive off. We begin to push it down. We begin to ignore it. We begin to, that's the brain's way of dealing with trauma, right? We need to write out our feelings and what we're learning in our healing. Our feelings are legitimate and they must be understood. And so I want to encourage you to write these things down of the things that God is doing in your life, some of the things that you've gone through, and some of the things that you're finding healing in, not only in these modules, but also in other things that God brings your way. And he'll begin to bring things your way that you'd be amazed at. Resist thinking about what ifs. You can't unscramble scrambled eggs. And then be gentle with yourself. God doesn't expect nearly as much from you as you expect from yourself. Did you hear that? God doesn't expect nearly as much from you as you expect from yourself. So be gentle with yourself. Give God time. These modules, though powerful and are beginning to get us to where we need to be. And of course, we're going to talk more about an offering that I'm going to offer you that is going to help you even in a greater way. But we have to remember that this is a process. This isn't something we snap our fingers to. You know, we've had this pain for all these years. We're not going to snap our fingers in 1 hour and be able to resolve everything that's happened in our lives. God can fully heal you and break off any past chain if you're willing to believe that he can do it for you. The Holy Spirit is the master surgeon. He is the one who will be getting down deep into where these hurts and pains are located. If you are willing to work and cooperate with him during this inner healing process, he will be able to cut out and completely take away most, if not all, of the hurt, pain, and trauma associated with some of these painful events that you've gone through. You know, there's no way to deal with our past in 30 minutes or in an hour or even in a whole day, but that would make a vast impact in this. And this webinar, even though it begins the process, I want to share with you the fact that I've been talking about this. I'm planning on offering a deeper dive webinar to you that will be available so that you can go from an overview of resolving your painful past to a deep look at an actual process to resolve it. And I'll talk more about this later, but you will definitely want to take advantage of this. It is invaluable, and I have taken people through this process now for over 20 years, and it works. And we're going to talk more about that later. Well, Module 5 is next, and in this next module, we're going to discover together how we can take our mess and turn it into a glorious, impactful message that we can lead others with for the rest of our days. Let me ask you a question. How would you like to be able to do that? How would you like to be able to do that? To take people through your mess and your message now of how God brought healing to your life and how they can find the same healing. Well, that would be a great thing to do. Well, you know what? It's possible because I know from personal experience how God's done it in my life and how he's done it in hundreds of others, maybe even thousands of others that I'm not even aware of. The hundreds that have taken this message to other people. And that's what's going to begin to happen in your life as well. So we'll see you on Module 5, and we'll be talking about the fact that how God can turn your mess into his glorious message.